The deserts of Iraq, early in the 20th century. Archaeological excavations began to peel back the layers of mystery surrounding the true face of Babylon. But among the ruins, something unsettling emerged. Evidence of technologies that, according to mainstream science, simply should not have existed thousands of years ago. These discoveries challenge our conventional understanding of human progress, forcing us to reconsider the capabilities of ancient civilizations. Could the builders of that era have harnessed the laws of physics to create comforts we believe are modern achievements? The answer has the potential to transform legend into tangible fact, revealing that our ancestors possessed secrets we are only now beginning to grasp. For centuries, scholars held a firm belief. Humanity's development was a straightforward, gradual climb from stone axes to iron swords, culminating in modern machines. The ancient Greeks and Romans were considered the pinnacle of advancement, preceded by cultures perceived as almost primitive. Previously, such anomalous discoveries were often dismissed as errors or anomalies, attributed to dating inaccuracies. But the tide began to turn in the mid-19th century. Reports surfaced of artifacts unearthed in ancient contexts, their age sparking heated debate that continues to this day. As these finds accumulated, a realization dawned. Official history was missing a crucial piece of the puzzle. The real breakthrough occurred in Mesopotamia. In 1936, near Baghdad, a clay jar was unearthed containing a copper tube and an iron rod. 2 years later, in 1938, archaeologist Wilhelm Koenig proposed a startling theory. It was an ancient battery. A bold hypothesis suggests these vessels may have been used for rudimentary electroplating. All these discoveries compel us to acknowledge a profound truth. Ancient civilizations possessed secrets we are only beginning to decipher. Beneath the foundations of the main palace, one discovery stands out, a revelation that challenges everything we thought we knew about the ancient world. Archaeologists unearthed a network of baked clay pipes laid with astonishing precision. For years, conventional wisdom has held that ancient civilizations simply dumped waste into the streets or relied on open ditches. History tells us that true sewage systems and pressurized water pipes were centuries away. But one of the expedition's engineers dared to question this assumption. He observed that the pipes were joined with an airtight compound, a sealant based on natural resin. This meant water could flow under pressure without seeping into the ground. Could it be that thousands of years before the rise of modern cities, the inhabitants of Babylon enjoyed a level of comfort we typically associate with our own time? Imagine sifting through the dust of centuries, excavating the forgotten homes of ancient civilizations. In one such dwelling, belonging to a wealthy merchant, a team of researchers made an astonishing discovery. Beneath layers of accumulated time, they unearthed strange, glassy plates. These were unlike anything they had seen before. Perfectly transparent, each possessed a subtle thickening at its center. Conventional wisdom held that ancient glass was crude, often cloudy and uneven, suitable only for inexpensive trinkets or simple vessels. The accepted narrative placed the invention of quality lenses squarely in the medieval period. But then, an accident. One of the archaeologists, almost absent-mindedly, placed one of these peculiar glass plates over a clay tablet inscribed with minute text. What happened next defied explanation. The tiny characters leaped into sharp focus, magnified to an impossible size. It was a lens, a simple magnifying glass, crafted by a master artisan who possessed an understanding of optics centuries before the formal birth of physics. This unassuming object challenged everything, rewriting the story of how ancient scholars observed the world and contemplated the stars. How many other secrets lie buried, waiting to reshape our understanding of the past. The discovery of metallic tools sent shock waves through the archaeological community. In one of the craft workshops, archaeologists unearthed saws and drills forged from an alloy that had defied rust for millennia. Official history dictates that during this era, civilizations worked exclusively with malleable copper or bronze. The conventional understanding is that the processing of hard stones, such as granite, was achieved through simple friction or the use of ordinary sand. But the marks etched onto Babylonian slabs tell a different story. The stone bore deep, uniform grooves, the kind only a very hard metal operating at high speeds could produce. One of the stonemasons present at the excavation confidently asserted that these marks were consistent with those left by a modern milling machine. Imagine the implications. The hypothesis of mechanized labor in antiquity could fundamentally reshape our understanding of the history of technology. As the team wrapped up their examination of the workshops, they unearthed a peculiar mechanism, a collection of bronze gears ravaged by time. Yet even in its fragmented state, it was clear this was once part of a sophisticated calculating device. Modern textbooks tell us that complex mechanisms first emerged in Europe during the Renaissance. Historians have long maintained that ancient civilizations were limited to levers and simple block and tackle systems. But this device, this artifact, it whispered a different story. It suggested that in Babylon there existed engineers capable of crafting machines to chart the very movements of the planets. These discoveries pose profound questions for researchers, demanding a new perspective. Each object becomes a silent testament, revealing that we may have drastically underestimated our ancestors, who possessed manufacturing secrets lost for millennia. What other wonders remain hidden, waiting to challenge our understanding of the past? Deep in the heart of Babylon, archaeologists unearthed a story buried not just beneath layers of earth, but behind a wall of silence woven into local legends. It began with an old worker, a man who had assisted the team since day one. He led the professor to a spot where the ground had collapsed after a torrential downpour. There, in the newly formed ravine, the edge of a massive slab was visible, coated in a layer of natural resin. The old man whispered that his grandfather had called this place the House of Silence, a place where ancient priests supposedly kept the very voice of the heavens. After the team managed to move the slab, they discovered a narrow passage leading down into a small chamber, a room possessing uncanny acoustics. Lining the walls were tall clay jars. Their openings all pointed towards the center of the room. Conventional wisdom dictates that such vessels were merely for storing grain or wine. Historians at universities are largely convinced that Babylonian architecture was solely focused on outward grandeur. But this chamber defied such assumptions. Imagine standing in the center of this room. Even the softest whisper would be amplified, echoing back as if projected by a powerful speaker. The expedition's engineers were astounded by the precision with which the angles of the walls and the shapes of the vessels had been calculated. It became clear that sound was as vital to the Babylonians as sustenance. These chambers could have been used for important town meetings or court proceedings, where the judge's voice needed to be commanding and resonant without any physical strain. This wasn't magic, it was pure physics, ingeniously employed by ancient builders to bring order to life in a sprawling city. Another strange story emerged from the investigation into how the Babylonians illuminated their colossal buildings. For years, archaeologists were baffled. How did people function in the deepest halls where not a single window existed? The accepted theory pointed to torches or oil lamps. Yet a perplexing detail remained. The ceilings of these Babylonian structures bore absolutely no trace of soot. Surely, years of burning torches would have left the stones blackened. Historians often glossed over this anomaly, suggesting the walls were simply cleaned with great frequency. But then, a member of the team unearthed something extraordinary in an inner courtyard: remnants of a mirror system crafted from polished bronze. These weren't ordinary mirrors. They were mounted on mobile stands. Could it be? Imagine a beam of light directed from the street, precisely angled, and then relayed by this network of mirrors reaching the farthest chambers. An ancient fiber optic system channeling sunlight into the depths. This discovery offered a compelling explanation for the apparent cleanliness and brightness of Babylonian life. They weren't polluting the air with fire. They were, quite literally, inviting the sun inside. Delving into the daily lives of ordinary citizens has yielded some truly remarkable discoveries. In one unassuming home, archaeologists unearthed a peculiar stone bath, complete with two connecting pipes, one positioned above, the other below. Conventional wisdom suggests that bathing in ancient times involved nothing more than pouring water from basins. Heating water, we are told, was a laborious and time-consuming process. But beneath this very bath, investigators found a small chamber designed for burning embers, functioning much like a modern-day boiler. Could it be that an ordinary Babylonian, after a long day's work, could simply light a small fire in a dedicated compartment and enjoy a hot bath? A level of comfort that wouldn't appear in Europe for another 2,000 years. The enigma of the discoveries manifested in the most ordinary objects. Take, for instance, a copper cauldron unearthed in the kitchen of a private dwelling, its walls coated with a delicate layer of silver. Modern science dismisses this as mere decoration, but consider the practical implications. Silver, as we know, possesses potent antibacterial properties, capable of keeping water fresh for extended periods. Could it be that the ancient housewives of Babylon understood the properties of metals, harnessing them to safeguard their families from disease? They weren't simply preparing meals, they were applying the principles of chemistry in their daily lives. This story, unearthed from beneath Babylon, reveals a truth we often overlook: our tendency to underestimate the ancients, dismissing them as primitive. But what if the reality was far more sophisticated? What if their ingenuity surpassed our own in fundamental ways? Consider their innovations: advanced plumbing, mirrored lamps reflecting light in ingenious ways, and sophisticated heating systems. These weren't mere rudimentary attempts at comfort. They were evidence of a civilization that prioritized harmony with the natural world. They possessed a profound understanding of sustainable living, using their intellect not to dominate and destroy, but to create comfort that didn't demand the annihilation of the environment. We haven't simply found ruins. We've uncovered the remnants of a society that may have held secrets to a more balanced and enlightened existence. To truly grasp how the discoveries beneath Babylon are rewriting history, we must see them not as relics of magic, but as irrefutable evidence of advanced engineering prowess. Each revelation poses a profound challenge to established textbooks, which have long portrayed ancient civilizations as skilled, yet ultimately limited artisans. Beneath the sands, archaeologists unearthed a city plan of astonishing logic. Along the main thoroughfares, they discovered the remnants of strange structures built from baked brick. Within these structures, copper rods were found, secured with a thick, natural resin. Copper, in that era, was typically reserved for adornments, weaponry, or simple vessels. Historians maintain that any suggestion of electrical knowledge or energy transmission in ancient times is pure conjecture. But what if these copper contraptions served a purpose beyond the known? What if they were designed to protect buildings from lightning strikes, or to dissipate static electricity? Such a revelation would mean the Babylonians possessed an understanding of atmospheric physics millennia before Benjamin Franklin. It would fundamentally alter our perception of life in this ancient metropolis, revealing a level of safety and sophistication previously unimaginable. For ordinary people, this manifested as astonishing precision. In one of the craft districts, archaeologists unearthed a stoneworking shop. Inside, they discovered basalt slabs, their surfaces polished to a mirror sheen. Modern science tells us that achieving such a polish in antiquity would have required months of arduous manual labor, using only sand and water. But under a microscope, the stone revealed something unexpected: microscopic circular marks, the kind typically left by a rotating tool. Could it be that the Babylonians possessed primitive yet effective machines? If confirmed, this discovery would rewrite the history of technology. Imagine, the mechanization of labor may not have begun in the 15th century, but in the distant past. Knowledge seemingly lost to time. But there's another fact, one that throws established science into turmoil, and it revolves around medicine and chemistry. Within one of the excavated houses, archaeologists unearthed a collection of narrow-necked ceramic vessels. The analysis of their residual contents revealed the presence of acids and metallic salts. Official history dictates that chemistry, as a formal science, emerged only in the Middle Ages, thanks to the alchemists. Scientists have long believed that ancient peoples utilized only what nature provided in its raw, unadulterated form. However, these vessels suggest something far more sophisticated. They may have been integral to a process of gold-plating ornamentation. If Babylonian jewelers employed chemical deposition of gold rather than simple hammering and shaping, it would demonstrate a profound understanding of the structure of matter. The life of a wealthy Babylonian was filled with objects that demanded for their creation complex laboratories, the existence of which we previously never even suspected. The city's food supply system is particularly noteworthy. Along the canals, archaeologists unearthed the remains of mechanisms powered by the river's current. These were gear systems constructed from hardened wood and bronze. According to the established historical narrative, such sophisticated transmissions didn't appear until ancient Greece. But the Babylonian discoveries reveal that automated irrigation was commonplace. This forces a dramatic rewrite of economic history. If the Babylonians possessed agricultural machinery, it freed up vast amounts of human capital for pursuits in science and the arts. This could explain why Babylon became such a dominant cultural center. But it also begs a crucial question. Why didn't these technologies spread further, and why were they lost for centuries? The enigma of these discoveries lies not in some alien aesthetic, but in their seamless integration into daily life. Within ordinary homes, archaeologists unearthed instruments designed for observing shadows, devices capable of measuring time with astonishing precision, down to the minute. We often assume that time was a fluid concept for ancient peoples, but Babylon offers compelling evidence to the contrary, revealing a society where life was meticulously planned and governed by the immutable laws of mathematics. What if everything we thought we knew about the past was wrong? If accepted, a series of overlooked facts could shatter our perception of human history, transforming it from a slow, arduous climb out of darkness into something far more extraordinary. A sequence of brilliant, almost inexplicable flashes of innovation. Babylon, for example, might have been one such flash. Here, the human intellect, using seemingly simple materials, engineered a life of comfort and technological advancement. Every intricate component of a recovered mechanism, every revealing chemical compound discovered within an ancient vessel, whispers a provocative possibility that we are not the first to conceive of sophisticated solutions. Perhaps our ancestors were not primitive, but pioneers, charting a course far more advanced than the one depicted in our history books. Could it be that their path diverged from ours, leading them to achievements we are only now beginning to comprehend? As the investigation continued, archaeologists delved deeper into the intricacies of Babylonian daily life, examining entire city blocks. One of the most significant discoveries was a ventilation system that snaked beneath the city. Official science has long held the belief that ancient metropolises were stifling, fetid places where inhabitants suffered from overheating and noxious odors. Scholars at universities claim that, in those times, ventilation relied solely on open windows and doors. But beneath Babylon, researchers unearthed a network of vertical shafts, plunging deep into the earth and connecting to horizontal tunnels. At the bottom of these shafts, water, sourced from hidden underground channels, was ever present. When the scorching desert air entered a shaft, it underwent a rapid cooling upon contact with the water. This cooled air, under pressure, was then forced into residential rooms through strategically placed openings in the floor. It was a natural air conditioning system, operating without a single motor. The daily lives of ordinary citizens were shielded from the debilitating heat. People could find respite in the cool interiors of their homes, while outside, temperatures soared past 40 degrees Celsius. This discovery fundamentally alters our understanding of ancient architecture, proving that the Babylonians possessed an ability to manipulate airflow with the precision of modern engineers. The mystery surrounding this discovery deepened when researchers unearthed peculiar filter remnants within one of the ventilation shafts. These filters, crafted from layers of fine mesh copper and palm fibers, were infused with an antiseptic compound. Mainstream science typically asserts that the concept of air hygiene only emerged in the 20th century. The conventional wisdom dictates that ancient peoples remained oblivious to the existence of airborne dust or microbes. Yet these filters suggest the Babylonians possessed a profound concern for the quality of the air they breathed. They deliberately purified it, removing sand and impurities, thereby cultivating a unique microclimate within their city. Here was a civilization that seemingly prioritized human health and comfort, employing sophisticated knowledge of biology and physics to achieve it. Deep beneath the sprawling ruins of ancient Babylon, archaeologists unearthed a structure unlike any other. Evidence suggests it was an archive, perhaps even a bank, the heart of Babylonian commerce. Within its crumbling walls lay thousands of clay tablets, a treasure trove of ancient knowledge. But it wasn't the tablets themselves that captivated the researchers. It was the shelves. Constructed from treated wood, these shelves were coated in a mysterious lacquer, a substance seemingly impervious to fire. When tested, the coating merely darkened, refusing to ignite. Official history tells us that fireproofing is a relatively recent achievement, a triumph of modern chemistry. Yet, here was evidence that millennia ago, the Babylonians understood the secrets of protecting their vital records from the ever-present threat of urban conflagration. Imagine a world where a single spark could erase centuries of accumulated wisdom. The Babylonians, it seems, were determined to prevent such a catastrophe. The daily life of a Babylonian official or banker was surrounded by innovations designed to safeguard information. They didn't just write on clay, they engineered security systems, anticipating solutions we often consider uniquely modern. What other secrets lie buried beneath the sands, waiting to challenge our understanding of the past? Within the same structure, they unearthed peculiar seals, crafted from a metal alloy seemingly impossible to replicate through conventional casting. Each seal bore a unique microscopic pattern, visible under a specific angle of light. An ancient safeguard against forgery, a kind of holographic sticker from a bygone era. This discovery compels a reevaluation of the history of both criminology and law, revealing that the Babylonian financial system was protected with a sophistication previously underestimated by scholars. Moving further towards the city's edge, archaeologists unearthed the remnants of an irrigation system, one that supplied water not only to the fields, but also to the private gardens of its citizens. Modern science often paints a picture of Mesopotamian irrigation as primitive, a world where slaves toiled, endlessly scooping water with leather bags and pouring it into canals. Historians have long considered it backbreaking and inefficient labor. But beneath Babylon, a startling discovery: a system of automatic sluice gates triggered independently when the water level in a canal reached a critical point. Within these mechanisms, floats crafted from cork and counterweights fashioned from stone. As the water rose, the float would engage a lever, causing a gate to open, releasing water to the designated area. Once the level dropped, the system would automatically shut itself down. The implications are staggering. Imagine gardens watered around the clock without human intervention. The life of a Babylonian gardener, automated to a degree that seems almost impossible for the era. The result? A city literally overflowing with greenery, transformed into a vibrant oasis amidst a desolate desert. This single find forces us to reconsider everything we thought we knew about the history of agriculture. The enigma surrounding the discoveries reached its zenith with the unearthing of a time capsule nestled within one of the foundations. Inside, a blueprint of the city lay waiting, etched onto a delicate sheet of bronze. This wasn't just any map. It depicted lines of communication, conduits, and pathways that archaeologists hadn't even begun to excavate. But the truly baffling aspect was the map's scale, maintained with millimeter precision. Academic circles have long asserted that ancient maps were schematic at best, riddled with inaccuracies due to the absence of sophisticated measuring instruments. Yet, this bronze plate offered irrefutable evidence to the contrary. Could it be that the Babylonians possessed surveying techniques, advanced methods that allowed them to perceive their city as a unified whole, almost as if viewed from a great height? As this phase of the work drew to a close, the researchers unearthed a cache of writing implements. Amongst the commonplace clay styluses lay something altogether unexpected: strange quills tipped with metal. But that wasn't all. Within these tips, a cavity, clearly designed to hold ink. The implications are staggering. These were, in effect, the forerunners of the modern fountain pen. Official history tells us that such pens didn't appear until the 19th century. Conventional wisdom holds that ancient scribes were perpetually dipping their instruments in the inkwells, a process that made writing slow and messy. But the Babylonian scribes, it seems, could write for hours without pause, their hands gliding across parchment or leather. This discovery rewrites the history of writing itself, and, by extension, the history of education. What if the speed of information exchange in Babylon was far greater than we ever dared to imagine? All these discoveries, from heat-resistant varnishes to automated irrigation systems, paint a picture of a world where humankind was not enslaved by nature. Instead, they were nature's partner, adept at harnessing the laws of physics for their own benefit. The history of humanity, as it is currently taught, feels incomplete, truncated, because it overlooks these ingenious solutions devised by ancient engineers. Beneath the feet of archaeologists, Babylon continued to yield its secrets, proving that progress is not solely defined by electricity and the internet, but primarily by the mind's ability to solve complex problems with simple and effective solutions. Continuing their journey along the ancient paving stones, the archaeologists stumbled upon a residential house, remarkably well preserved compared to the others. Inside, they unearthed an object that, at first glance, appeared to be an ordinary kitchen utensil. A massive stone slab with a smooth depression and a heavy cylinder that fit perfectly within it. Academic science typically describes such finds as grain grinders, asserting that the daily life of ancient women consisted of endless and arduous manual grinding of grain. Scholars claim this was an exhausting task, consuming all their time. However, upon closer inspection, traces of a drive belt attachment were discovered on the cylinder's axis. It turned out that this mill was part of a small mechanical assembly, powered either by a domestic animal or a small water wheel in the courtyard. The woman did not need to spend hours rubbing stone against stone. She simply poured in the grain, and the mechanism did all the work for her. This was an ancient household appliance, freeing up time for raising children or learning. Such a discovery fundamentally alters our understanding of Babylon's social structure. It suggests that even in ordinary families, time and human labor were valued, and engineering ingenuity was directed towards easing everyday burdens. This proves that progress was not jealously confined to palaces and temples, but extended into every home. Within that very house, in a storage room, researchers unearthed sealed vessels crafted from a unique type of ceramic, their interiors coated with a layer of glaze. When one of these containers was opened, it revealed oil that, remarkably, had not turned rancid over millennia, retaining its original properties. Official accounts of medical and chemical history maintain that preserving food for such an extended duration without modern additives and vacuum sealing is impossible. It is generally believed that ancient populations constantly grappled with the perils of spoiled food. Yet the Babylonians employed natural resins and a specific combination of minerals within their ceramic composition, creating an environment inside the vessel that suppressed bacterial growth. This was applied biology in action, seamlessly integrated into the daily life of an ordinary family. The bedroom floor in this dwelling held a secret, a double-layered construction concealing a hidden space. Within this cavity, archaeologists unearthed the remnants of burnt herbs and charcoal. Conventional wisdom suggests that ancient heating methods were rudimentary at best, limited to open fires that filled homes with smoke and soot. Historians often depict our ancestors bundled in animal skins, battling the winter chill. But this sophisticated underfloor heating system tells a different story, revealing that the Babylonians possessed a profound understanding of convection. Imagine a system where hot air, generated by a small furnace located outside the house, circulated beneath the floor, gently warming the sleeping quarters. A system that provided warmth without the suffocating pollution of an open flame. This was a level of comfort we now associate with luxury, yet for the inhabitants of Babylon, it appears to have been a standard feature of daily life. The true enigma lies in the sheer scale of these discoveries. This wasn't an isolated indulgence for the wealthy elite. This was a city-wide culture of comfort, a testament to the ingenuity and sophistication of a civilization that continues to captivate and confound us. Across the district, archaeologists unearthed a workshop, a place where shoes were crafted. Within its walls, they discovered sandals, not just any sandals, but footwear designed with a shock-absorbing sole. Layers of resilient cork and delicate copper wire were meticulously interwoven, creating a sophisticated form of cushioning. For generations, the accepted narrative has been that ancient footwear was rudimentary, flat, even detrimental to the foot. Orthopedics, we are told, is a science born in the last 100 years. But what if that narrative is incomplete? These Babylonian shoemakers, it seems, were creating footwear that considered the strain on the spine, the relentless impact of walking long distances on unforgiving stone pavements. The daily life of a city dweller, constantly on the move for trade or construction, was subtly protected by these small, ingenious engineering marvels. Discoveries unearthed in Babylonia are forcing a complete rewrite of the history books. What was once considered an era of manual labor and superstition is now revealing that our ancestors possessed technologies far beyond what we ever imagined. The realization that thousands of years ago, people were using gas lighting systems, intricate mechanisms, and even chemical processes for gilding metals fundamentally alters our understanding of historical chronology. Could it be that the industrial and scientific revolutions didn't originate in Europe a few centuries ago, but in the distant past? Perhaps much of this knowledge was subsequently lost or forgotten. These revelations transform history from a linear progression into a series of peaks and valleys. They demonstrate that humanity achieved remarkable levels of advancement and comfort long before the advent of electricity or oil. Such facts compel scholars to acknowledge that ancient civilizations were not merely stepping stones to our time, but rather independent and highly developed worlds in their own right. The story of Babylon serves as a stark reminder that profound knowledge can vanish if not carefully preserved, and that we are far from the first to harness the forces of nature for a life of ease.